How did you manage the adrenaline and everything? Because that must have been something
Sounds really weird. There was a tile on the floor. I was just doing my footwork, Jill, just in this one tile. I just kept looking at this one tile because it was square like a ring, and I was just, I was partnered up with Luke. Luke was a terrific boxer, and he was kind of the perfect guy to be getting back into it with. Strong guy, great technique. I sparred Luke, and then they put Jonathan in for a round with me.
Mm-hmm.
First time I was in that gym.
Did he go easy on you, or because he went easy on me until I landed a punch, and then he landed like 5 on me, and I thought I'm not doing that again. Hi guys, welcome to Not Just Boxing podcast. We're here today with a good friend of mine, Ant Lewendon. Went to university together. Haven't seen him in years. He's a former club president of the University of Boxing at Portsmouth, and an all-round great guy. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Cheers, mate. How are you?
Good. Yeah, great. How was the journey down from Reading?
Not too bad. Couple hours. Little pause. There was a car on fire on the M3, which is...
As you do.
Yeah, I haven't seen a car on fire before. It was the first time, so that had a little half hour to journey. But yeah, other than that, it was okay.
Fair. Was it like GTA?
It was a car on its own. I have no idea what happened. I drove by it, and luckily they put it out. It looked like everyone was okay. But it was scorched. Airbags out. Even airbags were scorched.
That's nuts. Can you imagine that if that was your car, the motorway? Just
would
crazy.
Like to.
So obviously, well, let's dive into. I think the first time I met you, you were just saying then we boxed at Gym 01 together.
Yeah.
I can't actually remember this, but yeah, what happened there? I can't really.
Yeah, you came in the gym. You had your own gloves and stuff, so everyone was like, oh yeah, like this.
Who's this newbie?
You was about 72 kilos at the time. You had long hair. You had long hair them times.
Bit of a belly.
Little bit of a belly. But me and you got partnered up, and we was just doing some kind of, it was more like pad drills. So I remember you hitting me in my wrist, and it was, yeah. I was impressed straight away. I knew straight away you had a little bit of power. You obviously had done a little bit before. Then you started telling me how you grew up in Maidstone with Luke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you knew Luke before you met me then?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so me and Luke, so we met second year of uni.
Mm-hmm.
I actually met Luke at Freshers Fair of my first year. I think what's that now? That was 2015. So I actually come to this university. I come to Portsmouth University to do boxing. I'd done a little bit of research beforehand and seen that Portsmouth had won Bucks a ton of times. They had a whole website dedicated to it, kind of outlining like how big the boxing scene is here at university level. So that was kind of why I came here. It was another reason I like Portsmouth as well. It's kind of near from Reading. So yeah, that factored into me coming down here. So I went up to Luke. I said, you're right, mate, looking to get into boxing.
He's great, isn't he, Luke?
Yeah.
What was he like for first impression of him?
Hello, mate.
He's so passionate as well.
Yeah,
Such a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He is. What weight are you? And I'm like, 75. Oh, me too.
Yeah, so
you know what Luke's like. Yeah. Dragged me over to Kane Bradley. Kane signed me up. Went to a taster session. Kane was another very successful president. He smashed it at his taster sessions. Felt like hundreds of people.
Really?
Yeah.
Where were they?
They'd done a mixture in, and I went to the ones at Gym 01, but I think some of the others were in like Spinnaker Sports Centre. I went to the Gym 01 ones. I was like the only person who had my own gloves and my own boots and stuff like that. So immediately I kind of siphoned off to the side. I remember done a little bit of pads. That was with Mark Davis.
Oh yeah, he's a great pad man, isn't he? He's
Mark
a really good pad man.
Mark was a really good pad man. Yeah, you could really load up on his shots, which is what I liked, and especially being I hadn't boxed in a little while actually. I'd even done a little training camp for all summer.
Ready for uni?
Ready for uni. Yeah. I actually put on a load of weight, got ill, lost a load of weight.
Oh, okay. Because you struggled to put on weight, right? Like that was because you've always had that good genetics where you're huge, but you're only boxing at 75, like a Tommy Hearns.
Yeah. So I actually used to put on weight fine. I had some weird illness. I still don't really know what it was. I was ill for like 5-6 weeks. This was March, April before uni. So right in the heart of sixth form. I was off sixth form for like 5-6 weeks. I was ill. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink anything.
Shit. Couldn't keep anything down.
Couldn't keep anything down. I dropped from like 84, 85 kilos down into the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah. And then once I recovered from that, I started putting some weight back on. Seemed to get to about 77, and I couldn't go any higher than 77 at that time. So that was
worked in your advantage though for boxing.
Yeah, it did in a sense. Yeah, it did in a sense.
And when did you actually even start boxing? Obviously, because I think you had How many bouts did you have before uni?
Only two.
Two.
Yeah.
But did you start early? Because your boxing knowledge and IQ was, when I met you straight away, it was already there. So I'm guessing you must have been around it quite a bit, or obviously really passionate about it enough.
Yeah, so I've done a year when I was like 8, and that was typical kid boxing. That was just throwing a 1-2, getting a basic idea of footwork. I remember one time I was sparring, this one boy hit me really hard, and I literally started running after him. And it was that silly style of boxing. It didn't really count. And then picked it up again when I was 12, 13. I used to be a keen football player, and when football used to not be going that well, it just kind of turned my attention to boxing a little bit. Went down Reading ABC. So when I was there as a kid, there was 3 bags in the gym. There was a really old ring. It generally wasn't that busy.
Who's the coaches down there?
Quite a rundown gym. At that time, I don't know who it was at that time. But when I arrived back, I was like 12, 13, that kind of age. A guy, Adrian Riley, took it over, and the gym looked completely different. There was bags everywhere. There was speed balls. There was I don't know what they're called. The balls that have the string above and below. They're hooked to the ground and the ceiling.
Yeah, they're
They
good.
had
Yeah.
them. They had running machines. They had weights. A new ring. So the gym had a complete makeover. Yeah, just randomly went. So the way the gym was heaving, full of talent at this time. A few boys I recognised from school that were in years above me. I should have been going to the kids' classes, but because I was like 5'8" when I was like 12, it was.
Have you always been tall then?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've always been very tall. And then, so I got away with going to the adult sessions, and there was a few of the older boys who were like 15, 16, and year 10 and 11 and stuff like that in school.
And that's a big difference back then too. When you're like maybe a year 8, like even now when you think a few years isn't that much, but that's huge, isn't it? Especially like through puberty, you've got fellas that have got beards that are like 16, and then there's you that 13 or whatever. That's
In
huge.
kid years, yeah, it's massive. It's massive. But I got away with it. So the way it used to be in Reading, there was another trainer called Craig Piner. He used to lead these like kind of circuit sessions even. That's what we used to kick off with. So 6:30 you used to have to get there, and it'd be starting. And
In
you'd
the morning or at night after
in the
school?
evening, and then you'd be doing kind of a 45-minute circuit before you even put any gloves on, right? And it used to be different. So it was just like a normal square gym, and there used to be rows basically. And in the front row was the serious ones who were racing everyone, and row 2 was like the cool boxers who had the technique on point with all of the exercises and stuff, and what used to coast through it. So I remember my first one, I plonked straight in row 1, and I was just racing everyone to my left and to my right. Put the gloves on, and they used to basically separate it then. So all the carded boxers and all the stone cold beginners used to train together. Why I actually like this is because I used to look to my left, and there'd be a national champion who's completely outpacing me. But I know what I have to do in order to kind of get to that level. So
It's good motivation, isn't it? And also to see their technique.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do. It's not like you're around just beginners, and maybe the best technique in the class is someone that's still got their elbows flared and all the basic things that we've all struggled with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's good to have a visual representation about where you need to go and what you need to be doing, right? And when you get that early door straight away, I mean, yeah, I was racing these guys in my head. I was trying to keep up with them, and then eventually trying to get ahead of them and stuff like that. So the way it happened then is carded boxers would go over for pads and sparring, and all the beginners would go over to a guy called John, and you would do really basic beginner sessions, i.e. jab, right hand, footwork. And I'd done this for 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
John was a stickler. Anyone who made it out of John's beginner class and started to go and do a little bit of pads, kind of get into that intermediate level, everyone had good feet, a good jab, and a good right hand.
That's good though. Repetition even though it's a long 6 to 9 months, I bet you had probably all the fundamentals there then.
Yeah. And by then I was wanting to throw like more left hooks. I was wanting to throw uppercuts. I was still curious, right? I just think that's a good base to have, because we've both had bouts, and what 2 punches do you throw the most?
Especially in your first bout.
Yeah.
You only throw really straight shots.
Absolutely. Our coaches back in the day used to always say you could win a novice with just a 1-2. It's the 2 most important punches in the game. And
Even in national finals, I see, you know, a good 1-2 beats
Yeah.
hooks, and yeah, I think a fast straight shot usually beats most other shots anyway.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I had done my 6 to 9 months with John, and then I remember Craig invited me over some pads, and basically destroyed me with these pads. We done pads for like, I remember it clearly. We done pads for like 4 minutes straight. I was so excited. I got to go in the ring finally. Done pads for like 4 minutes straight, and kind of, yeah, I done okay. So then I got to do pads a little bit more, and yeah, that was kind of how that happened. I didn't have my first bout for about 2.5 years.
Were you happy with that? Were you happy with the weight, or was you really eager as soon as you even had that first pad session? Were you thinking about
It was
fighting?
normal in Reading. It was normal. The standard of first bouters and second bouters was always very high. The reason that was straight away you got into quite tough matchmaking. There's kind of that route, or the other route that I've seen, kind of especially down here as well, is getting people in the ring early doors, having bouts against low level competition or like potentially favourable matchmaking to kind of ease them along.
But do you think you probably pick up way more bad habits by doing that instead of maybe holding off? Because for me, even I had a bout after I'd never been in a boxing gym. 12 weeks later, I'm in a fight. You know, I lost crazy weight or whatever. But for me, I was in my head. I thought I was ready because I didn't know any different. But now I look back, the amount of mistakes and things that I had to unlearn, things that you don't realize because you didn't get shown it. It takes years to unlearn that, you know, like, as you know, as you coached yourself, if you've got someone that's brand new, you can mold them so easy. If you've got someone that's been boxing for years, but they've got all these bad habits, as soon as they get a little bit tired after a minute or anything, boom, you know, like for me, it was my elbows.
Yeah.
I remember that was the huge thing. Like, you know, I'd throw like a nice 1-2, and then all of a sudden my elbows are here, and maybe your chin's going up a bit. All these things that if I maybe took my time, got shown, you know, the long patient way, I probably never would have had to unlearn those. So
Yeah.
I think you had quite a good route, really.
Yeah, I
patient.
like the route, but I also I do kind of see some positives out of doing it the other way, right? Experience is the best thing you can get in boxing. You can get that to a degree with really good sparring, traveling to other gyms to spar, but the best way really is actually in the ring. The more times you step in the ring in a competition, the less important it comes every time, the less of a big occasion it becomes to you, and kind of getting over that bump is a very important part of being a boxer, right? And I'm someone who had infrequent fights, but I trained for 7 years in total, and I had 5 bouts, which is crazy.
Similar to me, really, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I bet it's frustrating too, because we'll move on later on about your eardrum and that, and obviously your back that you just told me off there. But like it does suck when you look back on what you could have been doing. So like I remember James Conner was saying, just be consistent, keep turning up. My biggest thing was as soon as you'd have a bout and you had all that pressure on yourself, as soon as you take that off after the fight, first thing you want to do is go have a beer, and it's just one night, and then next thing you know, you don't go to the gym for 1 week, and you've regressed 3 months of fitness. You know, 1 week of takeaways and drinking every night. All of a sudden, like you're back to square. You're back to before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. So I don't know if you had a similar route to me, but that was my biggest downfall. Which now I just want to be fit all the time. I train all the time. I never. It's a good mistake I made early because I'm going to be boxing starting this season.
Nice.
And I'm going to be just regular competitive. The guy we had on half an hour ago, Joel.
Yeah.
47 fights in pretty much 2.5 active years, 3 years. That's impressive. That's what I want to look at, really. And
Really?
yeah, that's my goal.
What gym are you training at?
Don't know yet. Don't know. I've been doing strength training really at the moment. Yeah, I'll see. I need to pick one. I know Gym 01 haven't got carded boxers. That's the biggest problem.
Right.
Obviously Connor's a great coach. Get on really well with him. I had most of my fights under him.
Yeah.
But if
It's a
he's
shame
not-
because Connor would be able to get you the 47 bouts in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So-
there's other good options in the area. There's some very good gyms in the Portsmouth area, and you already know how to do a bit anyway. So
Yeah, definitely. Just got to get in, really, like you said.
Yeah.
Just get the experience, get in, get taken over. But anyway, back to yourself, obviously. That's why, mate, I'm so excited to have you on. It's nice to finally, after all these, we've had some really good guests, obviously, but to have some friends on, to have someone that I know so well on a personal level, Like, yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Likewise, mate. Good to be here.
So, obviously, well, how was your first bout? When did that happen? How old were you for that? So 2.5 years it took for your first
Yeah,
fight?
so I think I was about 14 for my first bout. It was across the road from the gym in Reading. It was in a place called Face Bar. We was doing like a championship show, so we had a couple bouts at the beginning of it, of like home show bouts. I was one of them. There was a guy called Alexis, who's a heavyweight, was the other one. Yeah, I was first in.
Do you have many tickets sold? Was it the whole of Reading turning up for you? All
Mate,
your
I was like
pals?
14. I was like 14. I had a few mates there. All the boys from the gym were there.
Family? Did they want to
Family
see you
was
fight?
there. Some family friends were there. Yeah, and I actually had a football match right after it. Right, so it was there. There weren't much spare time there. So yeah, no, that was a good bout. I was very, as I say, I was very, very ready for it. I was sparring boys in the gym who were like, we had one guy who was like 7-0, and stuff like that, and I was sparring with a guy called Tank Jarvis as well. I think by this time he was kind of in his 30s number of bouts. So for our first bout, I was very ready. But I'd boxed a boy who'd had 2 or 3 fights, got on really well.
Was that the really aggressive fight? I think I've seen a clip. Yeah, there was a really aggressive guy come at you and you just boxed his head off, but he literally come in like a ball.
What the
It might have been
was
at
it like
uni,
on an old
actually.
DVD or something like that, or was this?
I'm not sure. I just remember this guy coming pretty much head down swinging.
Oh, that was probably the one at uni.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this first bout, it was the first bout. He was a little bit like that, but he was trying to pop 1-2s, and I was taller, longer. He was playing right into my game, and yeah, I had a great bout. I just got thinking back now, I got the preparation right. Kind of moved myself away from everyone. I didn't watch anything, and I didn't really interact with anyone before it. I was just kind of just focusing on just getting in there and enjoying myself.
How did you
And
manage the adrenaline and everything? Because that must have been something
sounds
that-
really weird. There was a tile on the floor, and I was just doing my footwork drills just in this one tile. I just kept looking at this one tile on the floor and just focusing on this because it was square like a ring, and I was just I was trying not to overthink the situation. When I look back on it now, obviously you're a kid, you're subconsciously doing these things. I just kind of was handling that in a really good way, just not overthinking it, and just yeah. So I had my warm up and stuff like that. I had a great warm up, got in. Do you know the guy who was cornering the other boy is Fitzpatrick? You know the guy who was coaching George Groves?
Oh, okay,
Paddy
yeah, yeah.
Fitzpatrick.
Oh, okay,
He
wow.
actually was in the corner of the boy who I boxed.
Wow. Was
for the
George
first
Groves
time.
at the fight, maybe?
I don't, a little bit before their time, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it was a great bout. I got a standing count on the boy in every single round. Yeah, won very nicely. Quickly got changed. Went over to East Reading and played my football match.
Scored a hat trick.
No, mate, I was knackered. I arrived there and I had all blood up my arms and stuff like that.
Did you have like bruised ears, bruised arms,
I was
everything?
fine. We had head guards and stuff.
Okay.
It was fine, that bout.
What weight was that?
64, I think.
Okay.
64. Might have been 66, something like that. So I had that bout. That was all good.
Did you win the football game? Do you remember?
We drew. But we was playing with 10 men pretty much all game.
What,
I arrived
something
and made
similar?
11th, yeah. It was that bad. It was that bad. Yeah, so that was kind of bout number 1. Bout number 2 was about 6 weeks later.
That's good that it was quite close after the first. Obviously, you had the
Yeah.
ball rolling, you come off a good win.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second one was actually a counties match. It was, and I boxed a guy called Lee Cutler. So
I've heard of
he's
Lee
now
Cutler, yeah.
he's now a good pro. He won the Southern Area welterweight title recently. Yeah, he's good. He was good. So yes, this was a county match, and yeah, I remember there was a ton of people there. It was quite a hostile environment. It was home counties versus west counties, and it was in somewhere in Wiltshire. It was heaving.
Was it just you and a couple teammates that went?
There was me and then another lad on the team boxed as well on that. All the boys come down in the van. We used to have a big van. We used to go to the bouts in, and yeah, I remember I got there. I was like bout number 5, number 6, something like that. I watched the first couple of bouts. I remember I got very spooked because I was like 14 at the time. I'm just sat there watching the bouts, and then in my peripheral I can see there's some bloke just staring at me, not breaking eye contact, right?
Yeah.
And obviously I'm a kid, so I'm like looking like this, and then I'm like looking forward, then I'm like pretending I can't see it, and he's still staring. So I look again, yeah, and I'm thinking, like, what's going on here? And then every time the round ended, he would turn and do this.
Days.
I was like 14, so I got a bit rattled by this. In the end, I went into the change room on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't really get past that. We'd done the warm up and stuff like this, but then I was just not feeling it. I was thinking like,
the mind games.
what's that guy going to do to me? Like all this kind of
So
stuff.
who was it doing that? Was it Lee? Was he?
I don't know.
I
I don't know if it's related to him. It might have been. What I'm guessing is this bloke's son was probably boxing, and he assumed that I was the opponent.
Ah, okay.
Probably was nothing to even do with him.
It's always like that, isn't it? Do you know when you go to an amateur show and you don't know who you're fighting, and
boy?
everyone's
you know what it's like.
Yeah.
So there was that.
So you got a bit spooked.
I got a bit spooked, and I remember I'd done my warm up and stuff. It really weren't the best venue. I was warming up in right next to some urinals, and there was
no space. I bet no room. Probably.
It was cramped.
Shoebox.
There was the floors were all wet. Say no more. It weren't great, and then so I had my warm up in the toilet. It weren't really that good.
Not many people say that, do they?
I know it was a weird one.
These were mind games, though. They do this in football, even. Like, I remember back in the day, because I was a Chelsea fan, they would say in Stamford Bridge, when I first went there on a tour, I was only really young, but they were like, the away room, they made so bad for all the away team. It'd be a shoebox, it'd be crap, there'd be nothing in there, and it would be cold. They would make it as hostile as possible. So when they finally get on the pitch, the home advantage is already started. Yeah. So I'm guessing you've probably had a bit of it there.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit of that, but it definitely worked because I remember in the moment, I remember thinking like, I don't fancy this today. And it was so weird because this is the first time ever. This is the first time in my life I've ever clocked this happening. Right. Started to feel a bit cold and started to actually start yawning and stuff. And what it was is obviously I was nervous about going out, and what I'm assuming is it's like a placebo effect. It's kind of like playing into my comfort side of like, you shouldn't go out there. You know, look, you're tired, you're cold, your feet are really cold. Like you're not feeling, you might be ill. Like you start having that's the first time I started having these kind of doubts like this ever, and it was really weird. Anyway, it got to it. So they called me out to the ring. I walked to the ring, and
were you still cold? Did you not feel?
I wasn't really feeling that good. I was trying to get myself into it, but obviously I was keeping it to myself because I didn't want to get pulled out. It was it was a weird one. I was kind of like, you know what it's like. I was keeping it to myself, just being a little bit quiet. And I remember they called my opponent out to the ring. He didn't come. I remember I was thinking, this is your lucky day. They call him again. He doesn't come again yet. I remember inside I'm thinking, you're going to get away with this. I turned to my coach and I'm like, we'll have to reschedule this for like 2 weeks or something like this. And I'm thinking, yes, I'm going to get off the hook tonight. And then
more mind games, by the way. This sounds like
it eventually comes out. Head guard on, looked like a raging bull. Got in the ring, and I'm thinking, I was starting to feel a little bit more up for it then, because then I was like 14, but you're still a little bit macho them years. So I'm thinking, I want to
sizing him up. You probably felt finally like you're ready for a fight, just because he's probably played you around, waiting in that ring. When you finally saw him, I'm sure you were game.
Yeah. I was, to be fair. I was feeling it a little bit more then. I was thinking, okay, cool. Anyway, bell rings. I'm not even lying. He charges right over. And I was kind of like, what? Like this? And straight away, he's on my chest, working away. I'm trying to spin off. He's cutting me off and following me. I can't get him off. I can't shake him off. That was all of the first round. And then second round, same kind of thing. My coaches are like, step back, throw the jab, step back, throw the jab. It was a small ring as well.
Did you have a lot of power back then as well?
I'd say, yeah. I did, yeah. I used to hit hard for a kid. So, I was trying to step back, jab. Kind of towards the end of the second, I started figuring out a little bit. like feint pivoting one way, then pivoting the other way, throwing a shot as I'm doing that.
That's pretty impressive for a second bout anyway, to go through that when you got someone on your chest, to think that's
Yeah,
impressive.
I'm not going to lie, it was rough. It was rough. There was points there where he was just teeing off and I was just in complete defense mode, and I'd never experienced that before. I was always in like quite good sparring. There was always moments, but I'd never been like completely
Roughed up.
And especially in this close range, that was really new for me because I used to box quite a long range, like mid to long range, but this kid was really, really on me, which was different. So I remember end the second round, my coaches were like, "And we're gonna pull you." And I was like, "No, don't," because it looked bad. It looked bad because I was not really much I could do because he was so close. I didn't really know what to do in the moment. I was kind of just froze a little bit.
And how much taller are you than him as well?
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
Must have been real tough to even let shots go that close.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was just they completely caught us off guard with the style and all that kind of stuff. And this was his fourth bout. He'd won 3 before it, so he was a good kid. He was a very good kid. So it was so it's not like it was anything like that. He was just a good kid who came with a great plan. Last round, obviously they said, "Yeah, we're going to pull you out." I kind of protested it, so they let me box in the last round, and they was kind of like, "Look, you don't show us anything, you ain't got to say in the matter." So then I didn't have a choice. I had a great third round. Started letting my hands go. I was in. Yeah.
You adjusted and finally, but it was probably too late then.
It was way too late.
Yeah.
It was way too late. I had a good third round. He won. I was brokenhearted.
Did part of you want a rematch? And did part of you straight away want to just sort of adjust? Because obviously now your mindset, if you had someone come at you like that, you would know straight away what to do.
Yeah.
Obviously back then, you might have been
It
hungry.
was a bit of a learning curve. No, at the time I didn't want to. I wanted to learn how to deal with this, have another couple bouts, kind of get some wind under my sails again. Because honestly, I was heartbroken. I still am. I'm deeply competitive, but even as a kid, I was toxically competitive. I was actually heartbroken when I lost that. I couldn't believe it. It was only worse when I got in the gym and the boys like, "How'd you get on?" And I'm like, "I lost." And they're like, "You lost?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, it was only that kind of thing. Was like, as a competitive kid, that was like a knife in
And
the
like
heart
your
every single
pride as
time.
well, when you know
Yeah.
that you've been handling yourself against such good guys. And
Yeah, you've got that emergent ego as a kid, right? And my ego was, unbeknown to me, was pretty big, and especially with the whole boxing thing, and it got popped massively. I was scrambling. I didn't know what to do, so
how did you overcome that?
I walked away.
Really?
They was pushing me into rematching him like in 3 weeks to a month, and I took my bags and didn't say a word and just got out of there.
And then what? So you just stopped boxing for a while then?
Just stopped boxing. Yeah. So it was like, I felt like, no, I'm not going to be ready to rematch him then. I knew my confidence had got knocked. I knew I had to get my confidence back. There was no point. It was going to be the exact same thing, probably even worse if I went in there with a bad head.
It sounds like though, even before, obviously there's no excuses. Even before it though, you weren't really prepared for it. You know, if you already felt a bit cold and you've got someone sitting on your chest as soon as the bell goes,
Yeah.
like there's no way to adjust to that. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be.
But
a
also,
fight.
he's a very good boxer. He went on to be a very, very good boxer.
Yeah, still is now.
Yeah. So it's also that he was a better boxer than me then and now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But did part of you not think, obviously, because my mindset of in the amateurs, I don't mind. Obviously, it sucks if you lose, but the amateurs is all about getting that experience.
Yeah.
Like for you to say that you boxed Lee Cutler in your second fight and you overcome 2 hard rounds and had a good third. To me, that sounds pretty good. You've had a big learning lesson after.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know you had to overcome at some point to come back into boxing. Anyway, you had to overcome some of those demons and that. Like that's huge.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was, As a kid though, I had quite lofty expectations about what I could do and all this kind of stuff. And loads of the boys in the gym had went through the process of winning the novices, winning the elites even. I sort of assumed I was just gonna follow the same thing, and my whole plan came crashing to the ground then, right? So, in the moment, and obviously being a kid as well, and not having as well developed of a mind, you're not thinking in terms of like, okay, I just need to learn how to deal with this style now.
Yeah.
Then I've got another layer to my game. I'll be in a better spot for this. I
It's
was
a lot
thinking,
more
oh,
emotional, isn't it?
yeah, I was emotional about it, and yeah, I took a bit of a rash decision and stopped boxing. Yeah,
And how long were you out? You just played football for then, because you've always been into that, haven't you?
yeah, just went back to just playing football full time.
What position were you?
Striker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. I used to be a striker with zero heading ability.
Really?
Zero heading ability.
No
I was one of
way.
those guys who used to jump and way, you know.
Oh man, and I'm guessing you were always the tallest guy in the field as well.
Most of the time. Most
Yeah.
of the time. Sometimes, obviously, there'd be a few freaks.
Didn't you play football as well at Fratton Park?
3 times.
Yeah, that's sick.
Three
Was it
times.
like charity or
Yeah.
what
So
events?
it was basically when we was at university here, the athletic union and the sport department at the university used to organise a student versus lecturer charity game. And yeah, I was lucky enough to get selected to play in the first one. The second one, I was actually involved in the athletic union, so kind of helped me get into it again. And the third one, I actually organised it, and kind of me and Charlotte Beanie organised it and run it.
Didn't you score in one?
No, I didn't.
No?
I didn't.
Who scored in them?
Omar had a terrific game in one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he a good footballer? I know
Omar's a great footballer.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a great footballer.
he's good at everything, isn't he?
He is. He is.
Yeah, he's a machine.
He's one of those guys. Yeah, he's a great athlete. But then actually, with the one that I organised, he got some gnarly injury. I remember it was only in a training session. This guy got his stud caught basically in Omar's sock, and Omar ended up breaking one of the bones in his legs, and it went up into his knee joint.
Oh,
And he had to get that removed. And I remember Connor was fuming with me, getting him into this poxy game, and he was out of boxing for a while with his, essentially.
what part of? Because obviously Omar smashed the novices into it. Well, what was that in between all that, or?
Yeah, so that would have been, I think the boxing season would have pretty much, it took him out of Haringey actually for that season. That's what it took him out of Haringey, yeah. And I think that was coming up to the end of Omar's third year, so, yeah. So
What a
that
sad
happened.
end.
Yeah, it was, but he
Not
made
your
a full
fault.
recovery. He
Yeah.
made a full recovery. He's back to boxing great again now. But yeah, 3 of them, I co-organised one of them. It was great. I mean, I don't know, I can't remember the stats for all of them, but for my one, I think something like we raised, I think it was 16 grand for Pompey in the Community Charity, and I think brain tumour research.
Wow, that's a lot. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
so there was good events. There was really good events. Had about 500-600 people at it. So
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'd come. Obviously, I wouldn't have been here. I think was I in Australia at that
yeah,
point?
he was in Australia.
Yeah. So back to I've actually already learned so much about you already. So when did you come back? What for? Obviously, because you said you had a little training camp before university. What gave you that little mindset of I'm going to get back into it? What gave you that motivation to want to?
I think I started watching a lot of MMA and kickboxing actually, and I was kind of leaning towards, oh, this looks interesting. Then ultimately I thought, I know how to box, so I'm at a big advice. If I just do boxing, it's going to be a lot more straightforward than learning a whole new sport. So that was how that happened. And then in the run up, when I decided I was going to go to university,
What made you want to go to uni? Did you always want to, or?
no, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I didn't actually want to go uni at all for a while, and I felt like it was just getting pushed as the only route, university, and
Did you go to sixth form?
I did go sixth form.
Yeah, same as me. Because everyone, that's all they talk about the whole time. Like
Yeah.
UCAS, is it applying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at my school, not many people went to university. It wasn't a great school. Like my year, the year that I went, I think there was 5 of us that went.
Oh wow.
There was like 210 people in our year at school.
Why is that?
Just a historically bad school, deprived area, social norms, not going to university and stuff like that. People were going off into trades and stuff, which is fine, but it was really like you was an anomaly if you went to university. So I was kind of living in that atmosphere where it's not a thing to go to university, and I didn't want to go for a bit because it felt like the school were really pushing it and trying to drive people to university, obviously to make themselves look better. So
But
yeah, I
also,
didn't.
it is because they do have the best interest for the kids. Most people that
Yeah,
go on to uni they lead better lives. Ultimately, that's the plan.
yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm very grateful because I'm in a much better spot now than I'm sure I would have been if I didn't go to university. So I have to say thank you to everyone who did annoy me at the time by shoving me in that direction. It did actually. I didn't know what was best for me at the time. That's part of being a kid, right?
Yeah, and it's not even the degree, right? The life experiences that you've had,
Yeah,
just being in Portsmouth, I'm sure, that
yeah,
they're things that you're going to remember the rest of your life, which huge
absolutely.
learning
You
curves.
can't put a value on them.
No,
Yeah, you can't.
and if you stayed at home and you literally, didn't really leave the house and
Yeah,
live with your parents till you're in your mid 20s or whatever,
yeah,
you're going to be so closed off. I'm not saying it's a bad life, but the experiences that you're missing out on, and even just being able to look after yourself, and
yeah,
the things that we take for granted now, entering the unknown, some people never have going into adulthood. So
yeah. And it's restrictive. That's restrictive not having experience doing that because it is a muscle. The more you enter the unknown and you have faith in yourself, the easier it becomes to do it.
and it makes you a lot more confident. I know you said you was a confident kid, but for a lot of people that aren't confident, to go away, to be able to handle things for yourself, you start to feel independent and start backing yourself, which,
Yeah,
yeah, I recommend it to anyone. And what's funny is how many people do you know have got a degree and they don't work in that degree? I'd say 80% of my mates from
yeah,
uni, like you
yeah,
don't go down that path. But the knowledge that we're saying, that the path that you've taken and everything,
hmm,
that alone, just to have the degree, even though you're not going to maybe, let's say you do, I don't know, let's say you do sport and you end up working in, a cafe or whatever,
yeah,
all those experiences on the way, that makes you a way better person,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah. I agree as well. It opens up doors regardless. I mean, the amount of I mean, I'd love to know the correlation between people who do photography and now work in recruitment. It's crazy. It's crazy. But even with degrees like photography, yeah, it gets a bad rep. But there's a lot of writing involved. It's a little bit similar to doing written English. You're doing a lot of analysis, a lot of understanding, kind of like the visual arts and stuff like that. So everything has got a value, regardless of what it is. And you hear some people trashing on different university courses, and I personally don't believe in all of that. I don't believe in all of that. There's value in absolutely everything, and just because you choose to do photography doesn't mean you have to be a photographer. It doesn't. There's transferable skills you get from everything, or even your experiences at university. You'll learn stuff along the way that will kind of shape what you do. It happened to me. I'd done my undergrad in international relations and history, which is what I liked, kind of coming out of sixth form.
So what did you study at sixth form to go there? Did you study history and
Sixth form was a complicated one, so I done, long story short, I done history, government and politics, public services.
I did that, yeah.
Yeah, that was yeah, and ICT.
Oh, you did four A
I
levels.
yeah, I did, but I spent 3 years at sixth form.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Why, just because you didn't turn up or?
no, it's not even a cool story like that. So we finished my. There was a curriculum change when we was going through school. It was kind of affecting our age group, and you'd have to learn a new curriculum. So basically one curriculum expired. Sorry, one curriculum expired when I was in year 10, and then a new one had to begin. Right, so you have to learn a whole new curriculum. So I finished all of my GCSEs in year 10, and for year 11, my school thought it'd be a great idea. So obviously we had to go to the premises anyway. They would just put us into empty rooms. So for an entire year, I was going to school and doing nothing. Like it turned into chaos. Have you ever seen Recess,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
kindergartners?
Yeah,
That's
TJ.
kind of what we was bigger versions of that. We was just running wild, and
That must have been tough to go back to education after a year of.
it was impossible. Me and my mates all went to sixth form in the same place, and we had that same attitude of just mucking around all the
Yeah,
time.
parties and
Yeah,
having fun.
literally just play fighting in the common room. Like, not we didn't. There was some lessons that we wouldn't go to, or if it was in class, we'd just be trolling the teacher. There was lots of stuff like that that went on. So I failed my first year. I got booted off of maths. I failed history. Passed ICT, and this was when I was like, yeah, I don't know about uni. And my head of sixth form, a guy, Mr. Todd. I remember I sauntered back in. I'll just retake this year. And he went, yeah, maybe at Reading College you will. I'm like, what do you mean? He went, well, you're not coming back here. And I was like, what? And he was like, you've shown no willingness all year. He goes, you're a nice kid. He goes, but you show no willingness. And he goes, ultimately, you're going to drag down everyone else here. He goes, it's not just you. He goes, you and all your mates. He goes, same thing. So anyway, he completely flipped the script. And in that moment, everything came crashing down. And in the end, I was like, no, sir, please, like, all this kind of stuff.
Did you realise how much you wanted to then go to school and actually?
Yeah, when it was getting snatched away.
Yeah.
And so it was probably obviously part of the plan. So he caved and was like, yeah. He said, but seriously, you're on a tightrope. So second year, I was back to normal. Third year, I was back to normal, went to university.
Sounds like he changed your life, really, that little chat.
He did. He's an influential guy for me. We still stay in touch. He's a real good guy, I'm sure he's had that touch on a lot of people. We had it on a few people at our school, to be fair. But I was lucky to come back because a couple of them legit didn't come back. They didn't come back and went on to do different things. But yeah, he was a good guy. So yeah.
Yeah, big paving stone. And then obviously, so come to in the sixth form, you got all the summer and that. So you just all boxing orientated at this point.
I was just in the gym. I was in the gym before then, but it was just like a weightlifting gym. It was a local Hilton gym, but they had a bag. That probably helped that they had the bag in there. Probably put the idea in my head. But yeah, I was just gymming there, and I had that illness. Got over the illness. Then I was back in the gym, hitting the bag and stuff like that. Just kind of doing self-teaching, just warming up and preparing. I even purposely got a flat near Gym 01, so I could have a nice little short.
Was that
walk.
in Fratton?
It was in Fratton. It was above Subway. You know, the red building.
Yeah. Living in Fratton, it's not even we were saying earlier, it's like it's its own place, Fratton, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's carnage.
Yeah.
Was that your first year in Fratton?
Yeah, in Fratton.
So you didn't go to halls?
Didn't get halls.
Wow.
Didn't get halls, yeah. So
that really shaped your uni living then. That must have been good for boxing.
It was good for boxing, but it took a little bit longer to settle into the whole uni life because I was living with Jack. So we were friends anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it had pros and cons, but the good thing is I really was into my boxing. I had a short 2-minute walk to the gym. Yeah, and that was kind of how that happened. Went in.
How was your first year handling all of a sudden undergrad degree and boxing?
Yeah, so I was just training that year. And kind of doing an undergrad degree. Just settling into uni. I went out on freshers and done stuff like that, and then I kind of reined everything in, and I was just boxing. But yeah, it was first year for me really wasn't that exciting. I didn't go out that much. It was just very boxing, getting on with my course, settling in, adjusting to the change of uni because it's quite a big change from being at home and then having to do everything yourself, kind of picking all that stuff up. So yeah, I was very, very, very boxing orientated first year.
And what was your first opinion when you went to Gym 01? You see all the mats, and I'm guessing John was there still.
John was there.
Yeah. So it must have been quite good. You got the bug straight away walking in.
I walked in the gym and I was like, wow, because it is an impressive looking gym. You've got the mats, and I've been watching UFC and stuff, and
the MMA guys there are brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was the guy? I think probably when you were there, he was like English champion or.
There was a few good ones. James Pennington was good when I was there. As Brett Caswell, who was good as well. Phil, who was in the UFC, Phil Harris, he was in the gym.
Is he a jiu-jitsu guy?
Yeah. Judo and jiu-jitsu, yeah. These guys were in the gym. They had the cage, they had the ring, all these bags upstairs, a really modern, cutting-edge gym, and I was starstruck by it when I walked in there. Lovely place to train. Yeah, cracked on with it straight away. I done pads and stuff with Mark, and then they was like, yeah, we're doing our actual session after if you want to stay. So I stayed and done that as well. I was partnered up with Luke, which was great. Luke's another one. Luke was a terrific boxer, and he was kind of the perfect guy to be getting back into it with. Winning records, strong guy, great technique. Me and Luke done a lot of work together straight away. Got in and sparred. I sparred Luke. Done okay. And then they put Jonathan in for a round with me. First time I was in that gym.
Did he go easy on you, or because he went easy on me until I landed a punch, and then he landed like 5 on me, and I thought I'm not doing that again.
Same. So I was just popping jabs again with he's blocking them, and it was one of them ones he was matching my energy, right? Got to a point, and I'm in there, and I'm thinking, oh, just go for it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen, yeah? I open up, 1-2 hook, slip, uppercut, left hook, right hand. Like this, and I'm like, oh God, what have I done?
Out a fight night.
Spin off, and the next thing, I don't even know what I was getting hit with, but I tell you what, the ceiling in Gym 01 is immaculate. No dust on it. I just remember getting hit with this uppercut. I was like, wow, that's really high up there. And that was it. And it was like, all right, lads, that'll do. I remember, but I was bruised. My nose was bleeding. But I was happy.
Yeah.
I was happy. And
he's such a nice guy as well.
He is. He come over. He was like, yeah, good round. And I'm like, yeah, cheers. So, but you need to get that first ass whooping out of the way.
Yeah.
Getting hit is another thing. Like, it's a shock if you don't get hit very often. But when you're getting hit all the time, and someone even hits you with a raw fist, it feels like nothing. It doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't do anything like that. As I say, if you don't get hit, you're cold. You're like, wow. Like, so yeah, I got that out of the way, so I was quite happy. Tested myself.
That was good. So that was your first time in there as well. That was your first ever. That's good. Obviously, sparring them. You sparred two of probably the better guys in the whole gym at your weight.
Yeah.
Well, John's actually, what was he then? 69 or 64?
He was 69 then. He was 69.
How did he even get down to 64? Because
he's enormous.
Yeah.
He's enormous. I thought he was bigger than me, and I was 75 because he was jacked. And he used to make 69 really comfy.
And he's a stuntman now.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah. I was seeing his Instagram.
Yeah, he's doing good. So obviously, back to Gym 01. So was Connor your main coach in all of it? Because obviously there was 3 at the time. I think you probably had Tony, Mark, Connor.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm pretty sure I probably had Mark and Tony more than I had Connor.
Yeah, same.
For a while. Yeah,
same. And my style gelled with Mark and Tony a little bit better than it did with Connor. Tony used to be kind of like into his rangy stuff, which was perfect, being that I was like, I'm tall for middleweight, I'm very tall. And Mark used to like loading up on shots. And I used to like that mid-range level. That's where I used to enjoy it. And Connor's very traditional England boxing, or it's almost like jousting, if that makes sense, or fencing.
Fencing, yeah.
So I just gelled with them organically a little bit better. So that was up until kind of April, and then I become president. Then I got to know Connor a little bit better.
When did you have your first bout for Gym 01?
That was in January of my first year, so it should have been sooner. But one thing I noticed when I went back to boxing, it was just weird. It was just like become very injury prone. I went from being a very active kid, and I did have like a year where I'd done nothing, right? And it was just like everything tightened up, become a bit weak.
And lots of niggles.
Loads of niggles, and it was weird, to be honest. I broke my rib like literally 3 weeks a month training in Gym 01. I don't really remember how it happened. I remember I broke my rib there, so I was kind of getting over that. I had a bout in January, and broke my nose right before that bout. We had Navy guys down, and I decided it'd be a great idea to buy a head guard with a face bar, so I don't break my nose, right? The thing weren't on tight enough, and sparring this 81 kilo guy in the Navy, and he's went jab, and this metal bar went bang in my nose like this. And it was moving all around. I couldn't even see, right? And so this guy, he went like that. Obviously, I got whammed this metal bar. This guy started teeing off on me. So I remember I'm moving away. I'd pull the thing off literally as we're going. I continue, have 3 great rounds, take my gloves off. And I remember I went like that, and I was like, ooh. Have you ever broke your nose?
Yeah.
You know what it's like? It just, you don't know it's broken, right? And you touch and you're like, ooh.
Really sore.
Like, that don't feel right. So I remember I had that whole thing. I went and looked in the mirror, and my nose had an elbow on it. I was like, oh, God.
Was there a lot of blood?
No blood.
Oh, wow.
No blood.
Did you have quite big black eyes? Or?
I got away with it, to be fair.
Oh, okay.
Like, every time I broke my nose, I never really got black eyes. Bad nosebleed the first time I broke my nose. 5 times, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 5
Well, your nose
times.
don't look too bad, though.
Could be better, mate.
Yeah,
Could be better.
I remember I was sparring a guy called Ant Molinaro in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and him and his brother Dom, he's doing bits. They got a great gym out there, and all of them were brilliant. They were whooping me 3-4. Well, no, every session, to be fair, every session I was just getting beat up, but I learned so much from it. And it was either him or Kai, but they landed a big straight shot. I walked onto it, and straight away, obviously, my nose was streaming, my eyes had gone, and it didn't really hurt after that. That was it. I carried on the rest of the evening, and I didn't think it broke.
Yeah.
And I got home, got in the shower, and I remember sneezing. I just started crying.
Yeah.
Just because the sneeze, just like,
Painful.
yeah, so painful. And I, for about 2 weeks, I was just trying to, I was still sparring and stuff, but just trying to avoid getting hit in the nose and any little knock on it, and it just instant
Putting a t-shirt
waterworks. Oh, I don't.
Scrapes it and you're like...
Taking a t-shirt off when it's all sweaty as well. Just, yeah.
It's not good, and ultimately you can't breathe through it. Like that was the worst thing about it. So I had a broken nose. The bruising comes out for me. It seemed to come out after 2 or 3 days. Bruising had come out. I remember I was getting my medical, and the doctor was like looking at. He goes, "Have you got the X-ray?" And I went, "Yeah, it's fine, just some bruising like this." And he's like squeezing it, and he went, "Where'd you go?" And I'm like, "Oh, what's it, Queen Alexandra, something like that." And he was like, "Okay, I don't even know if it's called that. I know it's QA.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is.
I know
Queen,
it's QA.
You got away with that.
I got away with that one." He went, "All right, cool." And this was on like Monday. I was boxing on the Friday. So yeah, I got away with that one. Completely broken nose.
What about the medical on the actual Friday when the doctor
well,
come in? Did he notice it? Was it?
He was fine. He was fine. I think it was obvious. But it's it's not. It's not the biggest injury in the world. It just affects your ability to breathe, and obviously it hurts if you get hit on it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Which is going to happen.
yeah, it's gonna happen. And
I
so I
always
was there
think
and
now-
willing. So
Do you remember when I boxed in Cardiff and I fractured my thumb knuckle?
yeah,
That was a big mistake. Like I still get problems now.
Really?
I'm trying to do so much strength training at the moment, so because like you, so injury prone. But both my thumbs have been wrecked, and I remember in Cardiff. Do you remember when I took my glove off and it was just like swollen like a golf ball?
I actually cornered you that night.
Yeah,
Me and
yeah.
Connor cornered you.
And you warmed me up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, do you know, you said earlier you got left standing there by Lee Cutler.
Yeah.
They left us standing in there
They did.
for ages. And
They
then he
did.
come into Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
And mate, just like, it was like Lion's Den in there. Everyone was just cheering this lad. And we was in the ring. For me, it felt a good 5 minutes.
It was a long time. A long time. But what a great venue Cardiff SU is. They did put on some tremendous shows.
I want to go back, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Like, yeah, I miss the uni side of boxing because, yeah, we were very blessed and we had such a good group of people as well. When you were president, like everyone got on well. Everyone was hard workers, turned up. Like, yeah, and even some of the success that come out, like even just sparring Omar, his jab is like a right hand. You know, sparring Omar was brilliant and. Yeah, we've been pretty blessed. I think during all of the time, obviously you've had COVID happen and all these other things. We had a pretty good time at uni with boxing.
100%.
So yeah, obviously, how was that bout anyway? The first one back.
Yeah, it was. So where I got the broken nose, I used to always seem to get colds after the broken nose. So I had a cold for this, and I remember Shaq was basically like, "Yeah, lemon ginger tea, you'll blast it out. Just sink as many cups as you can." So I did. Yeah, I did. Blasted it away in one day, but I put on so much water weight. I was boxing at 75, and I weighed like 80.5 on Monday.
Fuck.
Yeah, so I water loaded. I looked into how to get weight off quickly. I done water loading, which was a terrible idea.
Can you describe it to everyone?
Yeah, so I said I may have done it wrong.
Your
but
version.
essentially day one I had like I think I ascended, right. So I went like 2 liters day one, which was obviously a normal day. Then 4 liters, 6 liters, 8 liters, nothing. So what it does is it puts your body into flushing mode. You go to the toilet a lot, and yeah, weight seems to just absolutely drip off you. I was doing this as well as not eating, like barely anything. I was having like a little bowl of porridge a day.
I bet you would never do that again.
Never again. I got down to, I actually had to weigh in with clothes on because I got down to 73 kilos, which
Wow.
I way overdone it. Very dehydrated, very, very dehydrated. I
But
had to
did you
weigh in-
feel weak?
Yeah, I had no power that day. I gassed out as well, which was
You won it though, didn't you?
Yeah, I won it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To a depleted. And
I was
still got
I
the
was
win.
very unhappy with it though.
Yeah.
I was unhappy with it, but it was weird because it was the same thing as the last fight I had as a kid, right on me, and
Yeah. I think this is the one I saw because you picked him apart. You didn't
Yeah.
look depleted at all.
That's
I didn't even know you'd water loaded or anything.
yeah, it was I didn't feel good at all. I didn't feel, and I couldn't eat properly either. I couldn't eat properly for like 2 weeks after that, where I'd starved myself. It took ages to be able to eat properly again. I didn't do that ever again. Desperate times, desperate measures, right?
Yeah. We got Alex on later, and he's just come back from Haringey, and
Yeah.
he'd done something similar. He had to lose 7 kilos in. Oh, I'm gonna be wrong here. Like he had to lose a lot of weight in a week.
Yeah,
I tried to give him some advice, and I got him in contact with a nutritionist. But
yeah,
how can you perform all weekend at Haringey Box Cup when you're cutting that serious weight?
yeah. You can't, it's weird, right? Because you think the lighter you are, the faster you are. It's not. It's not the same. Your power glows, your speed goes. You get tired easily, more easily. It's just I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. I felt slow, sluggish. I looked okay in the videos and stuff, but
You knew you could be so much sharper, so much better.
yeah. But good thing is I knew what to do with somebody who boxed that style. I just stepped back through combos. Yeah, had a few little tricks in the book. If he got too close, just clinch, hand on the back of the head, spin him round. Ref
It is
breaks
good
every
that
time.
you dealt with Lee the fight before.
Yeah.
Because that experience you had there, because I remember seeing your first fight for Gym 01.
Yeah.
That experience you must have had in Reading or Wiltshire, sorry. That must have helped so much. If you didn't have that experience with Lee, you might have had the same problems you had against this
Yeah,
fella.
yeah, and the thing is, right, is when you do get those guys who box like that, they are difficult customers because when you're at that beginner level, it's all at range and mid range. It's not in close like with the holding and the grappling side of things and punching as you're moving off.
And you're not taught it as well. It's not something that you do in sparring regularly.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it's not how you
something
fight.
ideally you'd build up to in like intermediate level, right? So these guys who box like that straight away off the bat do surprise people, definitely.
Especially if you get the first round. You literally need one more round and it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite clever. You know, maybe coming back, that's what I need to maybe try. Just good calculated aggression.
Yeah, I would recommend it. You'll surprise a lot of people. I mean, how many bouts have you had now?
Only 8.
8, yeah. So, yeah, especially your next 4 fights, I think, yeah, that would be a good strategy. That'd be a good strategy.
So when you dealt with this fella, how were you in the third round? Like, were you completely gassed
Knackered. I
or?
couldn't breathe through my nose. I was knackered, and there was points where I was doing the same stuff the whole time. I was doing the same stuff, throwing whilst moving backwards. It's weird because after I lost that fight, I used to be kind of come forward, strong 1-2, and I just become obsessed with boxing on the back foot after that, and I got to really show it in that fight. So I was doing all of that. Every time he got too close, I'd spin him and throw shots. But by the third round, I was spinning him, but I just didn't have no gas to really open up. So I was just spinning him and moving off, and I'd pop some lazy shots. But yeah, I didn't feel great in the third round in that one.
I've felt the same in so many bouts where I've just been so gassed. I've done stupid things leading up to them. But like, yeah, there's nothing worse. I remember when I boxed Banger.
Yeah.
I was just like, if I compose myself more, just with basic little, just keeping my hands up and I was so gassed. I remember, like, obviously the night before, shouldn't have done some things, but yeah, that was an absolute nightmare for me. I just felt so gassed, and like just to have that composure when you get a bit more experience.
Yeah.
Even when you are tired, having that game face, those little extra things, you can win a round in the judge's eyes just by looking composed, walking forward.
Yeah, and doing quality work, right? And not letting another person do quality work on you. This is where it's difficult in the amateurs, right? Because you get some judges who like meaningless spam activity, and they'll give a round on that. And you get the other judges who appreciate a good clean shot.
What do you appreciate? What do you think wins bouts? Because there's been so many split decision wins that all the time, where you've got someone that's got all this aggression, not really landing clean shots, and then you've got the counter puncher on their back foot landing clean straight shots, but the guy on his back foot will lose unanimous. And it's like, for me, especially after Connor's way of teaching, I don't get how that happens when you're landing the clean shots. But yeah, do you think the aggression wins it?
Unfortunately, yeah, and I disagree with it. I disagree with it. You can throw meaningless, spammy shots all day, but if you're not really hurting anyone, like, it is a sport, yes, but it's about scoring points. And how can you score a point if you're not hitting the target?
And at a home
Right?
show, if you hit someone on the guard and everyone screams, out of all the
Yeah,
judges, and a lot of them are ancient as well, really, you got quite a few dinosaurs still going strong.
yeah.
You know, if they hear a few screams and hear a smack on a guard,
But it's also, these guys are watching 20 bouts a night, right? You
it
got
must be
like,
tough. Your attention span.
yeah, exactly. By hour 3, right? There must be moments where they just glaze over. I mean, I would. It'd be really hard to stay completely dialed in for that amount of time, right? So,
I've never been to a full boxing show
yeah,
and watched every fight religiously. I physically, I haven't got the attention span for it.
yeah, it would be hard work. It really would be.
And some of these shows as well, you have 25 bouts, 20 to 25, so a full day thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair play.
And a lot of these judges have worked days before. So there's two things. There's the whole cultural thing about what they think makes her a good boxer, but it's also these volunteers who often are working normal jobs and doing their bit for grassroots sports, right? So they definitely deserve praise, and it's got to be a hard job. I mean, first 3 bouts, perfect, right? But after 3 bouts, they must be getting a little bit fatigued.
Yeah.
Must be.
It's good that you've said that, actually, because I've never really thought about it like
Yeah.
in that sense. And especially some of these guys, obviously, they are traveling the country.
Yeah.
Some of these officials, like if you need, especially in the midst of the box season, right at the start, when you've got lots of shows going on, if someone's working on a Friday night or Friday, and then they got to go travel 4 hours and then go judge 15 bouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never thought of it in,
Then
their, in their eyes.
there's not tons of judges around. Some of the shows we put on, right? There'd be a judge would fall out, and we'd be scrambling to try and find another judge from somewhere, and they'd end up traveling a really long way to come and it would essentially save the show at that point. So there could definitely be more officials, but obviously it's having willing people who want to do it.
Yeah,
These guys are
there's
often
not much
quite
money in
stretched.
it. There's not much money in it, really.
Yeah.
In the grassroots, we were saying off
Yeah.
air that we'll go into. But if there was more money into it, I'm sure you'd have a lot better decisions. People wouldn't be worked as hard.
Yeah.
Like you said, having more staff. Like, so for you being club president, arranging a home show, the spreadsheets that you had to deal with, and all these other, like, the stresses on top of boxing on maybe the home show. Even Connor, I remember him showing me some of his spreadsheets where you got trying to scramble for costs, and you're dealing with probably up to 50 people, including boxers and officials and probably more.
Yeah.
How is that?
Listen, it's busy, and it would be far worse if James Conner wasn't there helping you along the way. Like, honestly, that guy was, the amount of effort he used to put into the club, unbelievable. We used to butt heads on ideas now and then, but overall, what a absolute treasure to the club that bloke was. I know he's kind of moved away now. He's doing his own thing with Gym 01 and his personal training, but he used to make it a lot easier than it could have been. But there was a lot of logistics that needed to be arranged. Like, for example, most of the lads who boxed on the show used to be putting the ring up before it. We used to be lugging it upstairs into third space. And yeah, there was all that kind of stuff. There was arranging bars. There was arranging kind of half-time acts, coordinating the bouts, which is what Connor used to do. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into running these shows. And obviously, these days I remember the very first show even, we used to make boxers' lunches, right, for our shows. Had me, Lauren Beckles, Malik and Jack Deed were in my house, and we went out and spent like 50 quid on different lunch stuff, and we was making everyone lunch. We made everyone lunch from about 7 o'clock in the morning till about 10. Bagged it all up, put it in our fridges, and then we went to Gym 01 to load up the van, boxing ring into the van, move it all the way to third space, obviously drive it to third space.
The student union.
Then we'd clear out the room, clear out third space. There was all the chairs and stuff that were in there. Clear out the changing room areas that will fill up with tables, chairs, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and then begin laying the chairs out how we needed them. Then we bring the ring up, set the ring up. There was all these logistical things that went on before the show even started, same day. And used to start at 7 in the morning. And by the time the ring was down and back at Gym 01, where his home was, the hall was cleared up and we was out, it would be about 1 o'clock at night. So they was really long days, and
And some of the people boxing on it as well. I remember helping set up a few times,
yeah,
and even though I didn't do the lunches and like obviously that what you said there, that's
yeah,
way more than what I ever did. But
yeah.
yeah, thank you anyway
No,
for
it's all good.
no, like you and Connor, like the amateur boxing, the amount of effort that goes into it, and people do it for the love of the sport. It's so good. And again, if they had the funding right, so if we go into it now in amateur boxing, we were saying I want to fact check it, but Team GB in boxing in general,
Yeah.
they get, let's say, I think 10 million a year budget for everything.
Yeah.
Whereas we got one of the best boxing teams in the world. We got #1 seeds. Like compare it to rowing, they get double the costs. Or I'm not disregarding rowing. I know obviously England's known for
Yeah.
Oxford and Cambridge, but like there's so much lack of funding, and maybe it's misplaced in certain areas that you could probably talk about a bit. 'Cause I think you know a bit more than me.
So how did this come about? We was actually talking about the split between England Boxing and the Amateur Boxing Alliance of England, and how a lot of it is to do with where the money goes. So a lot of the money is kind of top down in England Boxing. This may not absolutely be correct, but this is I've heard the Alliance side of the story. I've heard the England Boxing side of the story. Alliance side of the story is more, their funding is very top down. Obviously, a lot of money goes to Team GB. We've got some figures in Team GB who are on massive salaries, when that money could be going to grassroots level. So there's been this whole dispute and a bit of a split in boxing in the UK, but there's been more and more clubs have been moving back to England boxing now. So yeah, I think the overall thing is yes, boxing should perhaps, more money should perhaps be going to grassroots level stuff. But it's the same as anything, you get what you pay for with some of these top coaches, right? And Rob McCracken is a absolute top level coach. So you can see it both sides, but ultimately more funding overall in boxing would be the best answer. Absolutely.
But yeah, I seriously think they should start. Obviously, so you got the Sheffield camp, you got Team GB there.
Yeah.
How good would it be if they had hubs in different areas?
Yeah.
Like if we had a few hubs over the country, or not even just England, obviously Team GB, where you separate the coaches, the staff, you have a lot more talent going around, and there'll be less politics. There'll be a lot more opportunity for people coming through.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly one of the main gripes, is that it's very Sheffield centric, right? And a lot of the London clubs, well, look at it. Most of the great boxers that come out of the UK, they're from London. They're from London clubs. So there's the whole thing about the championships being up north as well, and it being difficult for southern-based clubs when they go up north to get favourable decisions and stuff like that.
Even just funding, even if you're just a grassroots club and you've got a talented boxer, how can you fund a weekend away in Hull or Wolves or?
Yeah, exactly. That makes it another challenge. But these guys obviously feel that London should be the centre of boxing in the UK.
So annoying. Are you getting annoyed with it yet?
A little bit now.
Yeah. Where do you want to go for dinner tonight?
I'm easy, mate. What's the plan and timeline wise?
So Zendra, obviously you want to drive back as well. Zendra's going to get here hopefully like 4:30,
Yeah.
5ish tops. We can even have him on with you if you want. We've got 3 mics.
Can do, yeah.
Probably be good. Just like, have a good fucking chat, really.
Yeah.
Don't even have to be about boxing.
Yeah.
And also we can talk more about current affairs too, because obviously I could talk to you
Nice.
for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sure you want to get stuck into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to carry on? I can't remember what you were saying.
Yeah, so the London clubs feel like it should be based in London. It should be London-centric, because most of the successful pros and a lot of the successful amateurs have historically come from London, right? And is that a fair point?
Yeah. And also, if you look at, obviously on the map, you would want more of a central point geographically anyway with all clubs, because there's loads of people I've been chatting to that are even just from Bristol, Bournemouth, sort of in the south, and when you've got a tournament, like sort of a 6-hour drive away, some of these guys are doing that drive with their coaches. They're getting their own fun themselves. They're probably competing that night and then driving back.
Yeah.
Getting back. You've been to some shows. Like,
Yeah.
I think we've
been to some shows, even the Cardiff shows. I mean, we was getting back at 4 a.m. from them.
Yeah, I remember. I think everyone come round mine in the end. I think we celebrated. But the travelling, and again, it always comes back to just the coaches. I think so. I haven't responded to it, but Andy Moore's quit. He's stopped the Portsmouth Uni position.
Why?
Stepped down. I don't know if he wants me to be talking about this on
Right.
here.
Yeah.
I do want to give him a call, but he tried his best with it all, and it's just so hard, so stressful, and when you're managing a lot of people, and there's not much coming out of it, and you still need to work full time. I think the stresses and everything
Yeah.
that he had coming through.
There's a lot of wider stuff going on with the club. A lot of wider stuff, as in politics within the Portsmouth area. Different clubs obviously want to absorb the university boxing practice and the funding that comes along with it. And I'll leave it at that. But I remember when I was moving on, this was all kicking off then, right? And this is why boxing is kind of still part of the athletic union as opposed to moving to the university sport department, because it was a little bit of a...
Can you explain that a bit more? Because I don't really understand that myself.
Yeah,
Without,
so...
you can be controversial. I'm sure you don't mind stepping on someone's toes.
Yeah, it's thinking what's best for the club here, right? But ultimately, one of the clubs locally was making a bit of a push to absorb the University Boxing Club away from Connor and Jim 01. The whole reason we were there in the first place is because they offered us a home years ago when I think it was Stacey's we was in. They shut. The club was homeless. Ended up in Jim 01 with Wayne and Connor later.
So Wayne took on that responsibility with the university.
Wayne took on that responsibility, won bucks a load of times.
Because I met him in Australia, but the amount of people that train with him in England, nothing but good words about him as a coach. Just
I've never met Wayne. He's like a myth and legend for me. Heard a lot of good things about him.
He's a great guy. So hospitable. Like when I went to Melbourne, he set me up with all the boxing gyms there. He boxes in the Masters. He's still involved with it all in his own way, but such a good guy. He went out his way for me when he'd never met me, and he took me fishing as well, which is pretty good. We got hammered on the riverbank. It was like 47 degrees, and I slept in. They call it a swag. It's a one-man bed coffin thing. So it's a sleeping bag, but it's also a tent, and it's so cool because you lay in this thing. It's real comfy. You unroll it. And you lay back. You don't have, so you got the fly cover, but you can see through, and all the stars was in the middle of nowhere. We had a great time. He took us out, and then unfortunately I was so I had a comp spar in Melbourne. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, I remember that.
But it was a nightmare. So they had a week later the Arnold Schwarzenegger strongman competition, and they had all the boxing there too. And it was 2 weeks after, I think. And I got carded, had all my medical. I think spent like $300-400 on all these tests. I was so ready. I felt fit. Obviously, I was being beat up by all these really good elites. One of them just scraped a loss about coming to Commonwealth Games as well, Dom. I'm gutted for him because he's a great talent. But yeah, had all this going for me, and we had to go do our farm work. And I ended up working on a fish farm. Crocodiles and barramundi fish, and 4 months of that, like I put on 10 kilos in weight just because I went from fighting fit to drinking and letting loose, and
being tired after a long day, so you're not eating as well.
So like going through all of that really halted. I was just getting into the swing of things. Like if we didn't have to do farm work to stay in Australia, if that wasn't the regulation, I'd love to have. To be honest, mate, I'd still live there now. It's so good.
Tell me more about Australia.
Well, obviously,
what is it you love exactly about Australia so much?
The weather, the people, just every day you wake up, I'm just much happier than when I'm in England. There's just so much more opportunity. The pay's good. I struggled with. I had some stressful jobs, which put a downer on things. But to come back home, so I was labouring. I was a skilled labourer. Worked my way up through some promotions and stuff. Had a great time. Met hundreds of good people. Just on one site. It was so big. But to come home from a hard day's work and live on one of the best beaches in the world, and to just go and eat fish and chips, watch the world go by, and just like, even in the winter, it's 20 degrees and sunny. Like having that sun on your face all year round, it just makes you a much happier person.
So have you heard about that seasonal affective disorder or something like that? So it's basically how the weather influences your mood. And a lot of people have it. So when it's cloudy and rainy and stuff like that, they just don't feel 100%. Whereas the alternative is when it's sunny, you wake up and it's pure blue skies, sun's out straight away, they're bubbly and ready to go, they're going to have the best day ever. And it's a whole complete attitude shift.
I've never heard of it.
Do you believe you have it?
Well, you've just summed me up.
Yeah.
You've literally just summed me up. And the worst part was because of all COVID that everyone struggled with, hard times. It was the lockdown out in Australia was crazy, and they had mandatory vaccines as well. I'm not going to get political, but like, had all this stuff going on that was tough. And
When they're shooting cats
dogs
and dogs as well.
So like any dog that was in kennels, because people couldn't go past the 5 kilometer radius and visit anything. They were just killing all these innocent poor animals, and lots of twisted stuff happened at that point. But that's when obviously I come back, and we had a full winter in Australia. And even though it was quite a nice winter, I remember I was doing PTs in the park. I was booked out most days, but probably about 4 hours. So I was being paid every day to just coach boxing in a park in the sun in the winter, and it was perfect. So even during lockdown, I made the most of it. And having that winter there, where it still did get cold, coming back here, this is like the first week of sun we've had in England, since I've been back. So having 8 months of winter, 10 months of winter, I've been quite a downer, mate.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I have the exact same thing, and I do have times where I'm like, would I like to live abroad? And obviously, you're kind of uprooting your entire life, which is the comfort side, and you're like, no. But can you imagine sun all day, every day?
Yeah, and
like I'm the same as you. I feel like I get so much more done when it's sunny and it's warm, and I feel just generally happier, right?
Everyone's happier, and you can't work as hard. Like if it's dark and cold and you're indoors, you can do a hard 10-hour shift. But if you're working and it's well hot outside and you're around a bunch of lazy Australians that are like, smoko, fucking smoko, mate. Like they'll literally just go sit in the van for an hour, and just chill, just because it's too hot. Yeah, so like some of the jobs that I had were great. Like I was getting like the minimum wage out there is. You're looking like £11 an hour minimum wage. And for some of the stuff that you're doing, it's like you're sat in a van talking to a hilarious bloke that's, maybe a crack addict or whatever, some random Aussie that for an agency, and you're just having a good time. You're just around funny people, and they're way more relaxed. But yeah, like you said, it's just everything's better when the sun's out.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I think we're looking at moving to California in sort of the next 3 to 5 years.
Nice. Why Cali?
So my girlfriend's from California.
Oh, she's from California, is she?
Yeah.
Okay.
So her dad still lives in San Diego.
Yeah.
We go there every year.
Yeah.
And again, the sun's out all year round.
Yeah.
It does have you have to think realistically. You still got to work full time. You still got to do all these things. But for you to finish your day and it not be dark at 4 o'clock and raining, or raining all day anyway.
Yeah.
For it to actually have a bit of sunlight, and you can actually maybe go sit in the garden, or just little things that are nice in the summer. Look how happy everyone is in the summer here. Like Portsmouth's booming.
Portsmouth really glows up in the summer. Really glows up. But no, you're right. You actually get a good bank of free time to live your life, and this whole perception is obviously when it's dark and stuff and it's cold, people want to stay in at home. You can be more adventurous and a bit more outgoing when you've got a nice big chunk of sunlight, right?
Yeah. And also, if it's just not that cold, if it's not Baltic, if it's not -1 at 6 a.m, like I was in shorts all year round.
Yeah.
Like everyone, even if it was raining and it's 15 degrees, it's 15 degrees.
Yeah.
Like I'd be in shorts. I don't care getting a bit of rain on me because I'm going to dry up in 10 minutes. Like here, it's it's 10 degrees here. You got fellas, vests on, can of Stella, straight to the beach, get one of those little portable barbecues, and that's you done for the day. Out there, it's 10 degrees. Everyone's, got hoodies on. Everyone's used to it. But it is so much better. And obviously spending that time out there, great life experience. I recommend it to anyone. Like Luke, obviously met him out there.
Yeah.
He actually had a sick road trip. Did you see any of him doing the West Coast?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so I can't wait when he comes on for him to talk about it. But he was off the grid, catching his own dinner. He would literally just go catch a fish, like a huge fish, put it on the barbecue, drink beers around a fire, and just chill by the beach, and that would be his night. And just sit in a van, sleep in the car or whatever, just living rogue.
Yeah, and I guess like the thing that I can say on that is because I didn't do the whole traveling thing. I went straight into work. You kind of done it at the most feasible point in your life, right? Just before your career starts. I know people who have done it, who've took career breaks to go traveling, but it's disruptive at that point, right? And your wants and needs change when you start earning more money. You want to maybe look at getting on a property ladder, for example. yeah, that's one thing I wish I did do now.
Are
Definitely.
you considering doing it still?
Probably not. Probably not. I'm quite lucky in like the career I'm in. There would be opportunities to perhaps work abroad. Like,
So what are you doing? I still don't really.
so I'm working. I'm working in, it's essentially software sales.
Mhm.
So I do like the business development side of it, which is opening it, and I pass it to my colleagues who close it. I work specifically with the public sector, which is a good fit because my undergrad background is, I got quite clued up on how things work and some of the challenges and stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, try and start conversations with people in the public sector.
Do you
I'm
enjoy it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
What's the team like? Have you got a good team around you? Good boss?
yeah, I work with. Yeah, I can't complain. I can't complain. My first job wasn't so amazing. It was what you'd imagine like a kind of sales job to be like. It's very,
I just think of Wolf of Wall Street, to be honest. I've never been in a proper sales job.
yeah.
I can just imagine you just got a load of money hungry people in a little office, probably doing drugs or whatever. Just like,
No, it's very. I haven't seen that side of it. I haven't
oh,
seen that
okay,
side of it. But yeah, it's quite pressure heavy, like that kind of things. I mean, in Wolf of Wall Street, they turn to drugs for the pressure because of the pressure, right?
how do
And
you
obviously
handle
the
that
thrill of it.
pressure? Is it all from the boss or is it on
So this
yourself?
was this was all like organizational pressure. In the end, to be honest, like pretty much everyone left.
Wow.
It was like I think there's like 16 people left. It's a team of like 23. I think 16 left in like a spell of 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so I done that, and I moved to another company where it's really good. It's really good. Culturally, it's amazing. Management, amazing. Opportunities to move up, amazing. The guys I work with as well, they've got a keen attention into my development as a person as well. But I think it's almost like a good career for like ex-athletes because ultimately you get out what you put in. And one of the things I really didn't want was 9 to 5, log in, log off, twiddle my thumbs all day, not care about it, not be looking to make progress, because yeah, it just wouldn't go well with me with this.
Kills your personality, doesn't it? After a while, you see it on people after being at jobs. They change, turn into zombies. You just get stuck in your
Zombies is
ways.
perfect. Zombies is perfect, right? And they've got no real stimulation, right? They're signing in for a paycheck. And I guess COVID has made that even worse because then people are isolated doing something they don't like, that isn't stimulating their brain at all.
That's how good sport is, though.
Yeah,
Like overall, even obviously, I know we talk about your job, but sport has. We had a guy on yesterday. He's only boxed for a few months, but he was a
yeah,
great guest, and he just spoke about how he started because of mental health. He was really struggling with mental health. Never
yeah,
boxed before. He's in his like late 20s. I hope I didn't get any of that wrong. But yeah, lovely guy,
yeah,
and yeah, he just said how much better he feels, and it's just
yeah,
because he got told that boxing as a sport. And for me, if I had my own business, if I hired people that were in sports, what that gives you as a work ethic, the discipline that you have, the
yeah,
drive, all of those things that you get in anyone that we trained with at Gym 01, whatever job they go in, they're going to succeed. They're going to
yeah,
be good. They've got that drive, and I feel having that is so big. And if you're going into a job where they're actually praising you on this and helping you grow in their direction, that sounds great. That's
yeah.
huge.
Because boxing teaches you the process of how to be good at something. I think like that process pretty much remains consistent for anything you want to do in life. Pretty much anything you want to do in life is it's a similar process you have to apply. Everyone has their own process. It's important you find and learn what that is, but yeah, ultimately it comes down to things like discipline, consistency. Though I guess it's the mind versus brain struggle, right? That people have. And you say you have urges to go have a takeaway or urges to stay out late and that kind of stuff. And
The bad habits that creep in your
yeah,
mind.
yeah, those individual kind of autopilot-y decisions that people make that work against them
Because
in
even
the
now
long
we
run.
could do it if you wanted to switch off for a few weeks and not consciously think about what you're doing. Like for me, I could easily fall into whatever rut.
Yeah, yeah. It's even as simple as making sure you're going to bed on time, right? Because happens to most people during COVID, right? I mean, especially for the people on furlough, Unfortunately, I didn't get to experience that. Gutted. Missed out on a great summer. But what happens is I've seen the same process with all of my friends who are on furlough, right? Normally they go to bed at 10:30 because they have to be up at 6 in the morning, right? Becomes 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30. They're waking up at 1 and 2 in the afternoon. They're waking up and it's sunny outside, it's warm. And then they've immediately got FOMO because it's 1 in the afternoon and they're only just waking up now.
Start your day wrong completely.
Start your day completely wrong, right? And then where does that slippery slope lead to, right? It leads to you not being as productive and just generally not feeling as great as you can. It's things like that. It'd be very easy to just like, I haven't got to get up tomorrow, I'm going to stay up. But there's a whole bigger picture to these individual decisions that something like boxing teaches you.
And the drive as well. I think a lot of people lost any real reason to live when you're just waiting around being told what to do by the TV. And life gets pretty low and you can't see your family and everyone's got their own problems. When you've got that and everyone's going through it, not everyone's strong-minded enough to go through those
with no
processes.
light at the end of the tunnel. That was a big thing. Like no one knew when this was going to end.
And the new strains, it makes you think, is this it for now?
It's just an unpredictable environment. It was really an unpredictable environment because, I mean, we got to the first little batch of, when they set us free, and then you hear about the new. What was the new strain called? Omicron.
Omicron, yeah.
I said about Omicron,
but that was the better one. Delta was the bad one.
Delta, yeah.
That ruined me. Even though I took the AstraZeneca vaccine, that ruined me.
I had that really early doors. I had that in February, and I remember I was in the office, my first job, and me and my friends went to go get some biltong, and it required like a little 80-minute walk once we got to the place. We got there, and I'm walking there, and there was wind blowing on me, and I was feeling a bit short of breath. I've never really had that before ever, so I remember I was like, weird. Anyway, go back to the office. I'm eating my biltong. I can't eat and breathe at the same time and feel nourished, right? So I couldn't even eat all this glorious biltong that I had, yeah.
What is biltong? I never even heard of it.
So it's like I think it's a salt-cured beef. It's essentially that. It's similar to like...
Is it like with noodles or something?
No, it's literally like shavings of beef. So it used to have different flavours like caramelised onion, chili, like this kind of stuff. And you could get it like kind of well done or medium, and the medium stuff was a bit wet. So it's like, so it's similar to like, I guess like chorizo or jerky. It's like jerky.
Yeah. Okay.
It's similar to jerky, yeah. But there's a different process to how they come up with the meat.
Could you taste it? Had your taste gun?
Yeah, so I'll get to that. I remember I was doing that and was not feeling that good, and this was when there was early rumblings of COVID, and my friends at work were like, you got coronavirus, and I'm like, shut up, no, I don't. I'm nibbling because I don't want this whole. I was hoping it'd be like a Ebola or something like that, and to be contained and nothing too major. I'm like, I don't talk rubbish like this kind of stuff. Met some of my friends in the evening. We went to a shisha lounge.
So you spread it, didn't you? You were
no,
super spreader.
We had our own. We had our own shishas.
Okay.
And I couldn't taste anything, and I was like, I remember I said to the guy who worked there, I was like, did you put any flavour in this? Like this, yeah. I was getting riled with him.
How much did that cost?
One of the guys I was with, £15, something like that. One of the guys I was with, I'm like, try this, like see if you get anything from this, yeah. He takes it and he goes, you went, you trolling? And I was like, no, there was nothing there, and I was like, oh god. So I just went home then, because I was like, something weird's going on. I go to work the next day, and my symptoms were I still couldn't breathe. I was starting to sweat loads and get the fever and stuff. I actually got sent home from work. I was the first person in the office to get sent home from work because of COVID. I had this walk of shame because my seat was in the worst possible place. It was right at the back of the office.
How early was this? Were they testing for it?
This was February, right? And then they was like, we need you to go home. So I had the walk of shame through the whole office floor, and everyone's like
clapping you out.
Going like this as I go by. Yeah, literally. I go home. I ring 111. I'm like, can I get a coronavirus test, please? And they're like, what's your temperature? I do my temperature, and I'm like, can't remember what it was, say 36 for argument's sake. They're like, yeah, you ain't got coronavirus. You ain't got coronavirus because your temperature's not right. And I was like, but I'm like really short of breath. I can't smell or taste anything. I was like, that's not a symptom. It wasn't a recognized symptom yet. I was like, I'm sweating loads. Like, I've got like a mad fever. And they're like, no, your temperature would be high. If you had a fever, your temperature would be high. I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's what's weird. My temperature isn't high. They went, no test. And I was like, great. So I was ill with that for like 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was rough. And then
how was the recovery from it?
It was very phlegmy after it. Like, it was very phlegmy after it. It was okay. I was very tired. Very tired. But yeah, just kind of cracked on. And then by the time I just got better, my first day back in the office was the day the government said, like, it's your choice whether you work from home or whether you go in the office. So I was the only one in the office. And that was it. And then there was 2 more days of that. And then, yeah, we was at home.
That must have sucked, though. So how long did you have at home?
Oh, Jesus, I don't know. I don't know now.
Too long.
I never was back in the office consistently for the rest of that job. So that was another year. Never, I went in the office once.
What did you do to pass time during all this time? How did you sort of stay on the wagon in the sense of not drinking every day? And
I didn't really stay on the wagon that well. I mean, at the start, everyone was doing, what's it, house party?
I was in Australia. I ain't got a clue what happened in England. To be honest,
of course. So everyone was doing some app called House Party, which is like FaceTime where you can get groups in it. And they was doing all the drinking games and stuff involved.
Like Neck and Nominate, like 2008.
Neck and Nominate, yeah. Doing pints of wine just to show off. Like, yeah, I was doing all that jazz.
I would have done Ribena or something and just lied, just pretended, just done pints of that.
That's intelligence, right?
Yeah.
I'm the caveman.
But did you have a bit of fun though? Did you make the most of it?
No, I didn't. I was working the whole time, which was unfortunate. We had the dog, which was good because I got to go out to take him out every day. Aside from that, there was really not a whole lot of anything going on. I was scrambling around with nothing to do, to be honest with you. I didn't enjoy it at all. Quite a social, extroverted person. And it was kind of ripped down that whole identity that I had. Because obviously I had to stay at home, not really mix with anyone. So yeah, it was...
Become a sheep, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't like it. And it took me a while to shake the rust off of that, to be honest with you.
I think some people still haven't now, though.
Yeah, everyone seems... Yeah, I agree with that.
Disconnected.
Yeah.
Like, even like, if I walk down the road and I'm just trying to smile at people, it's all right in like a park or whatever. Like, seriously, I try and do that. Like, it makes me happy. If I go on a nice little walk in the morning, if I'm finished training and I got 10, 15 minutes, I'll go on a walk. But the people seem so much more disconnected than 4 years ago when I was back in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion. I don't know whether or not I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I see it with certain friends and stuff. They're like, you can see them. You have 1 or 2 slots a week to see them, right? And that's it. They're staying at home, chilling aside from that. And that to me is wild. Like at our age to be kind of shutting up shop and that's me. I think that's the worst thing to come out of it. So many people have just drawn a line under like living life and experiencing life and just prematurely getting into that. Go to work, save your money, or go to work, pay your mortgage.
Yeah, it's tough, you know, if you've got nothing to live for. Well, this obviously is our opinion. They might be very happy to do nothing, shut shop and just watch X Factor and do whatever you do.
It's true.
But like for me, I'll be itching to get out and do. I can't physically sit for longer than. Well, even this podcast now, it's been going for an hour and a half. I can't wait for us to just go on a walk and just go get a coffee or something, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, it is tough, and I've not said it yet, but I'm probably going to say, did I tell you what happened when I had the vaccine?
No.
So it was all mandatory. It all come into play. I had the AstraZeneca, which you're not allowed at our age. That I found out, but in Australia, if you were 18 and over, you were allowed it, apparently. So at the time I had it here, it was banned for if you're under 40, even though they had given some out.
Okay.
But I had that. I went from about to boxing Golden Gloves in Queensland to couldn't even walk around the house where I was living without being out of breath. Within 12 hours of having it, the first dose.
Yeah.
And I had obviously all the fever, the chest pains, the whatever, and it just didn't go. And I've been having heart tests to literally only 3 weeks ago, and it's just written me off completely. I had to get the second one to come home and to stop by in America, and I've had like mini heart attacks. I've literally had two
Sorry to hear
times.
that, mate.
I've had 2 times where I just finished driving. I was lucky I wasn't driving. I just pulled up on my girlfriend's mum's drive, and all of a sudden, like, my heart's pounding, and I just felt all faint and heavy legged, and I just like fully collapsed for like 2-3 minutes. Just couldn't get my breath back, and I called 111, and they said a doctor will call me within an hour. I waited till the next day for someone to get hold of me. I should have just called an ambulance or something.
You should have.
But I had tests in a hospital in Australia. They said I was fine. I've had tests here. They said I'm fine. But like the chest pains and the symptoms I've had ever since the vaccine.
Have you still got it today?
Yeah, it still comes in like the stress that I've had. I was telling you off camera. Some of the stress that we'll go through, the way I've handled it, my physical health issues have been a problem as well. Where when I have been stressed, I've been curled up on a ball on the floor, just trying to get my breath, like literally just trying to. And for someone that's fit and active, you should never have that at 25 years old. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I wanted everyone to get it because I thought it was going to be good for everything. But the way it's been with me and how I've been passed around the system with all the problems, you can't even see a doctor nowadays. It's just been crap. But I've done all the right things. I'm coming back to my normal self. Personally, I wish I was competing a few months ago. But even I was at Gym 01 doing some sparring, kind of put me in with a heavyweight and some other people. And I had my heart monitor on, hooked up. I had this big block thing in the pocket, and I've got all these wires on me, and I'm just trying to like live my life, And I was hoping when I wrote it down on the log, they'd be able to see how I am.
Yeah.
Because exercise is fine, but I could lay down and I could have an elevated heart rate when I'm relaxed at 10 at night of like 100 beats a minute when I'm chilling, which is not normal.
No.
So yeah, I'm just taking it easy myself.
So have you been like diagnosed with anything yet, or is it still a question mark?
Complete unknown. And like you said, when the doctors just pushed you away and said, no, you're fine, that I have had that. And my girlfriend's like, you've come a bit of a hypochondriac or whatever, where any little symptom.
But that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's just because it's your heart.
Yeah. It's a vital organ. And no, I'm first and foremost, I'm really sorry to hear that, mate. I hope you can make a full recovery.
I'm feeling good.
That's not encouraging, right? Because you've got no visibility about what's going on, right? And that's probably why she's calling you a hypochondriac.
Yeah, and you don't know the long-term effects. And the doctors I've spoken to that have been out of line, and one of them gave me a political answer when I said, do I need the booster to go on holiday or can I get an exemption? She said, if you want to work or go abroad, you need the booster. And it's a doctor telling me that when she's seen me have all these tests, So that political answer wasn't very nice.
No, it's not. And I think like we're entering this weird space with everything right now when you've got very divisive issues and neither side is open for a conversation with the other to explain why they feel the way they feel, right? And neither side wants to understand what has led to someone feeling the way they feel. And what they do is they invalidate their feelings. Mm-hmm. Leaves them digging their heels in, and both sides are doing this to the other. Yeah. The vaccination stuff is one, right? I've got friends. I'm going to use friends as an example. I've got some friends who haven't had anything, and because they're athletes. I mean, we all seen the reports of like myocarditis and stuff like that, and all the stuff that got brushed under the carpet, especially within younger people, right? Mm-hmm. And how it's affecting younger people. We all seen that. Some of my friends chose not to have it. Some of my friends chose to have it. And the ones who chose not to have it, one portion of the group of my friends would call them selfish, all that kind of stuff.
That's all because the media and how we've all been disconnected and how we've had us versus them.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, everyone thinks of these anti-vaxxers as conspiracy theorists and stuff. And I don't want to be one of those regarded. But like, it's just... There's truth and facts like that have been, like you said, swept under the carpet.
They have, and there's a whole lot of agenda pushing on. But you've got this whole: if you haven't had the vaccine, you're very selfish, right? Mm. I don't necessarily agree with that. Because ultimately, this is everyone's body. They should be able to choose what they put into it. I was skeptical. I mean, this vaccine got created in what, like, was it a year?
Pretty quick.
Was it a year?
I was all for it though, because I
Yeah.
just thought, for what it's worth, I'd rather have the protection before I get it,
Yeah.
before I get COVID. But when I got COVID, I was wiped out for 10 days,
Yeah.
and I had it bad anyway. And everyone was like, "Good thing you were protected." No one knows whether or not the vaccine I had 6 months before, of 20 strains before, even helped me with that. No one even knows, and it's all a guessing game from everyone.
Yeah.
And like when the doctor said to me, "There's no long-lasting effects of any heart conditions," to me, the fact I do still get chest pains and weird things that that I've never had, and like the tingles down my arm and bad blood flow, weird stuff. That's not.
But how can they definitively say that when we haven't had somebody who's took a jab and lived 80 successful years after,
Exactly.
or 60 successful years after? You can't say it. I know we do tests with different animals and stuff, and I'm sure like science people would have a much better answer, but
But you doubt all the professionals and with what's going on.
it was a punt in the darkness, wasn't it? Having a jab is a punt in the darkness that everything's going to be okay. And you're seeing more and more footballers, right, with heart conditions.
And even just at big stadiums, heart attacks in general.
Yeah,
Like,
we are.
I keep hearing about younger people having heart attacks and things, and like, yeah, you might think it's gonna maybe happen to you, or whatever, but I don't really think like that. I don't get stuck in my head with that. But when I do get chest pains, I do think this ain't normal. You
Yeah,
know?
of course, and you're going to be a little bit kind of angry at everything because you've suffered some damage, right?
Well, yeah, I just
You're going to have like some
I didn't think
investment.
I didn't think I was gonna box again.
Yeah,
I was so low at one point where I was just so ill, and I couldn't breathe. You know, I went from running 5Ks with hills in 90 minutes, 38 seconds, whatever it is, to not being able to walk around the house in a month, and going from all this being fit and active, and like we said, you know, all this drive, to just, you know, nothing, sat around hoping that you're gonna live. Like having that mindset, and then obviously being all on the other side of the world, away from everyone.
yeah,
Like part of the reason of flying home was, if I was to die out there, imagine me having to get flown home to my family and everything. Like, it's just hard, isn't it? So like with the healthcare out there, even though we've got Medicare, you have in Australia, it's like NHS. It's just not ideal. So yeah, you know, everyone's suffered with it, everyone's struggled, but I think, thank God, that a lot of people that are looking after their body, a lot of people are health conscious now. I see, like the running, I run most mornings along the seafront, busy all the time, you know. Even when it was raining and stuff, I'd see the same heads that I wave to, and that, like, you know, there's a lot of active people, which I'm sure they weren't active before. They've probably got that drive now to be healthier, to be the best version, because at the end of the day, your immune system's everything. If you get sick, a lot of people that have died, have been obese, have had other problems, have had underlying health conditions, which there is no excuse for. You shouldn't say, "Oh, but he had this, so he died." That's not on. He shouldn't have died anyway. But if everyone had a bit more self-love and care, which I think we are getting through, but more through podcasts. You'd never had the news tell you, eat healthy, go out, exercise, do these. You didn't. Like on the news.
You have 10 million adverts at McDonald's there.
Yeah. You know, you've got all this consume, all of this stuff, but you don't have what's best for your interests, your health, your body. And having stuff like a podcast, where, like, I love listening to, obviously, podcasts and that. Do you listen to many? Or
Yeah, podcasts and ebooks. Yeah, I'm there.
they're brilliant. Don't think you get information, usually unbiased. You've got practitioners. I listen to a neuroscientist, lots of good guests, and it's good. You're getting factual information, and you can better yourself.
Yeah, but look, if you had to diagnose what everyone consumes like nowadays in terms of media, food,
Social media,
social trends, social pressures, right? All the things people consume, you know. What really is that positive? What really is that positive?
Getting a like on your post. That's the biggest part of your day.
It's not good
for some people. You know, if you're a kid that's never grown up to go play football or climb a tree or whatever, and you've had iPads put in front of you as a baby.
Yeah. But think about learned reward mechanisms, right? They're off. They're completely off. Looking for this external validation, and that is a pit that you're never ever going to satisfy, right? And that leads to unhappy people. It leads to, if your whole happiness is based on, you think I'm a cool guy, right? I'm I want to need cameraman to think I'm a cool guy after.
You need
You're
him
not
to
gonna
comment
need,
on your TikTok for
yeah,
you to get that gratification.
exactly. And you need more and more and more stimulation for that to satisfy you, right? And ultimately, it gets to a point where it doesn't. It really doesn't. Like, you see a lot of rich guys, right? There's lots of rich people kill themselves and stuff like that, don't they? And poor people will be like, why? Why? I don't get it. You've got all the money in the
You
world.
always want more. You got that dopamine just rush of what you want. And like with TikTok, with kids,
Yeah.
you're consuming so much in a day. If you think of humans 50 years ago,
Yeah.
Like
That'd be a once a week shot you get.
yeah,
Yeah.
once, you read your newspaper, you've had your one paragraph that you're going to think about all day of
Yeah.
what's happened yesterday. Now you've got thousands of things that you're processing. If you're scrolling through Instagram for 2 hours, the amount of things that you're going to see in that time,
Yeah.
like it's to process it, and you become zombies. You become
The thing is, it's overstimulation, right? And as at some point, you're going to hit a ceiling where it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. You can get all the likes in the world. You can get all of this kind of stuff. It's just not going to be enough. And I just think internalizing these processes is something probably that the older generation's done. But all of the way we're geared up and being pushed as consumerists is more towards this external stuff, i.e., what clothes you're wearing, what shoes you're wearing, how many likes you're getting on a post. Even shows like Love Island, right? They're so pretentious and pushing what an ideal person is, right? And setting this benchmark.
bar,
I wonder how many people are in the gym because they want to look a certain way.
But also that's been going on for hundreds of years. But this is the current concept. Like you would see women in the park, but like having it in front of you every single day, and having other people that are better than you as well. I fully agree. It's tough. But how can we change that? For me, I feel happiest when I put my phone on airplane mode or turn it off, and I leave it, and I just go away and just go and enjoy my day.
But did you learn how to be happy doing that, or is this something you instantly airplane mode and you was fine?
No, it's so.
Imagine the first few times you done it, you must have been a little bit like,
Not really. Like without sounding weird in any, like the amount of notifications and things that go on my phone, it's so much better to switch off. Where I've had so much, it's like giving someone, force feeding them to the point they don't want food anymore. Where I've had
that's good.
so many things to deal with, I'd rather have a set time for it and be done. And especially like put your phone on night mode. iPhone's good for that.
Yeah.
So I get no notifications from like I think 5 to 9. So 100% at 5 to 9. If I go on my phone, I have to actively look for those notifications. So for me, that's helped me heaps. To go out without a phone in Ibiza, for example, I was there for a week.
Yeah,
Hardly went on my phone.
that's really good.
It was great.
But that's a really good habit. That's something I'd like to do more, to be honest. Like,
You feel free. You seriously feel free.
I over consume my phone, definitely. A lot of it, obviously, I work. A lot of my work is around obviously mobile phones and stuff.
Same with this.
Which is so. And yeah, I definitely do over consume it. That's just another example, right? I mean, we've all wasted hours scrolling and stuff like that. It's really good that you're able to separate, right?
Yeah, but also obviously I still spend a lot of time doing it. But I'm just trying to set my boundaries where I can still have a life. And obviously it affects other people. Like, how many times have you been on your phone when you've got loved ones around you that aren't going to be with you forever?
Yeah, and you get the disapproving looks because you're just on your phone and they're,
Yeah. And we're all hypocrites. We've all been there. But like being more consciously aware of it and just spending more time with people. Like human interaction is the nicest thing. Like just even seeing you after years today, having a good chat with you. It's it's way better than any like you're going to get on a post.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the same if we'd done it on FaceTime, for example.
Oh yeah, no, that's why people ask me all the time, can we do like a Zoom or no? It's so in person where I can actually physically talk to you, go get a coffee.
Yeah.
See it. Do you know what I mean? Like that to me, having that connection and human interaction.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of that.
No, and I think this was another weird angle COVID went, right? Because it kind of encouraged that, because obviously you couldn't go out and mix with people. I started having loads of Zoom calls with mates and stuff, and just generally texting friends more, where previously it'd be like, oh, do you want to go get a coffee? Like, it'd be like, oh, what's happened with so-and-so? You just text them to find out, where normally I'd save this stuff to go for a coffee, for example. There's all these micro habits that that changed because of COVID. And I guess it's a part of it. Yeah. What's good is it's instant gratification. That's what it is. And if you're able to make that separation like you are by being disciplined and turning your phone off from 9 to 5, then that's ultimately a good thing. I mean, looked into like overstimulation and instant gratification quite a lot, and it's even like Amazon, right? You want something in the moment, you can get it tomorrow on Amazon.
It is good in a way, though. There's a lot of positives with our generation. We're very blessed and lucky in so many ways, but it's also making us softer, and it's making us go the complete other way, I think. And the ease of access to everything. Like, I'm so lucky that having this, you know, not just boxing, even reaching out to Radu, the cameraman, like, it was all through over the phone, word of mouth. Like, it was so easy to set things up. And even see you today, you know, if it wasn't for me being able to talk to you on Instagram,
true,
and send a few voice notes, like, you know, it wouldn't be as easy to link up. So there's so many positives to it, but it's trying to use it to the best of your potential. And I think,
and not overuse it.
Trying to find your balance. I think if you could teach it in school now, at the end of the day, right, it's a big part of life. It's going to be even bigger in the future. It's progressing. Imagine if you taught in school every day a balance session. What do you want to do in your life? Where should you prioritize your time? Where can you do? Imagine if you had an hour a day with a teacher that cared about your best interests, and you just said, right, okay, what, you want to be a policeman when you're older? Okay, this is the route you got to go down. These are all the fun things you're going to be doing. Set your boundaries, know what you got to do, stick to them, and have some role models there. Like, if you was a kid and you had the right direction with all the technology, it could be used to your advantage brilliantly. But where it's not being taught properly, and it's so new to us, and we're over consuming, and all we know is to just wake up in the morning, first thing, look at your phone, go through every notification. Oh, half an hour's gone by. You know, we're all guilty of it.
Habit.
And just, I think it needs to be taught, and there should be some boundaries. There's got to be something come in where it can be used for good.
This is what's gonna it's gonna be a new thing that's like a survival of the fittest thing, right? Those who can separate and do it are ultimately going to fare better, because the more of these things you consume, i.e. junk food, social media, just generally doing things that are quite easy, and you get a good hormonal response from it.
But you also get the
like
bad hormonal response.
It's like a come down, right? So you get the endorphins very easily. It's cheap. It's like cheap endorphins. It makes stuff like going to the gym not as attractive. Leaving the house, going to a bar to meet your friends, not as attractive, because you can eat a pizza and you'll get a nice little flow of endorphins. It will empty out your batteries, and you will feel a little bit bad after, but ultimately you end up getting into this cycle. And I think there's a reason why a lot of these successful people, they don't really use their phone 24/7. They have people who use their phone for them and then update them, and it's stuff like that. And a lot of the stuff they're doing in the day is hard work that perhaps wouldn't be as appealing if it could just, you know, if you got into this rut of just chilling all the time, looking on your phone, you know.
And that's the biggest cause of mental health problems. Everyone thinks that unfortunately there are serious mental health disorders. But how many people think they're depressed or have anxiety? Because they genuinely do. But it all stems from they're disconnected. They don't know how to socialize anymore. They've become more. You're in this vicious cycle of things that you don't know how to deal with, and the way you prescribe, you give them antidepressants, and you know you're not telling anyone, because it is a big part. Social media and using your phone too much, and all these things. It is a huge part.
Promotes
to your mental
isolation.
health.
Promotes isolation, right? And we're a social species. I think you've done psychology, right? So you can
partially,
so you can speak to this far better than I can. But we're not that's not what we're designed to do. We're designed to be social.
And our dopamine hits, if you think of back in the day, you'd get a big dopamine hit. If you lived in your little village and you went out and you shot your bow and arrow and you just killed a deer or whatever, you know, you've got the biggest dopamine hit.
Bouncing off the ceiling.
You know, that's you done. You feed the village, everyone's happy, that's it. And you're all social, everyone's interacting. That's how it was for humankind until, you know, well, it's the technology
modern
age.
History, right? Modern history,
So that's how our brains still operate. You know, we're still getting used to this.
Hardwiring, right?
And like you look at Elon Musk is saying at some point he wants to put chips in people's brains, so you can actually process things on technology and a lot easier. Kids in schools right now don't learn maths without a calculator. Everyone's allowed a calculator the whole time. I remember in school, I had a non-calculator paper
Same.
and a calculator paper. And for me, that's brilliant. If I ever go to a shop or whatever, I got to deal with some quick maths, then, I know I can handle it. But these kids, if you go out now, let's say you've only ever used a calculator, you go out, you have a big bill, they're going to get short-changed. Like there's so many things that
But
we're regressing
it's
in.
what that promotes, right? It's what essentially that promotes. So we know very, like, for example, I can use the example of, like, people who juice and take testosterone. What happens when you take it synthetically? Your body's like, oh great, you got that covered. I'm not creating it anymore. So then these people who are doing that, they trash their own testosterone production systems because your body is adapted ultimately there, right? We're like, from my understanding, we're quite survival focused, right? And your body's looking to use the energy we have as efficiently as possible. So if you're doing something like that where you're not really testing your brain, I don't see how that helps your level of intelligence or your ability to put effort into something or to stretch yourself.
Especially when you become older. I fully agree.
It's like having a glove around your brain doing something like that.
Yeah. Like elderly, that you see the best people that live good years in their 80s, 90s, whatever. Like they're doing crosswords. They're stimulating their brain. They're actually every day testing themselves. You can use technology to your advantage. You can play the word games. You can really use your brain to the best of your potential and test it. But unfortunately, you don't get really a hit from that. You can rewire it. You can teach yourself to maybe, like the best part. I watched Israel Adesanya. He's got his own YouTube booming at the moment.
Yeah.
And his coach said in one of the latest training sessions, the biggest problem with fighters are they celebrate the wins and not the process, not the journey.
Correct.
If you celebrate that journey and that process, you're always winning. You're always developing. You're going to get the best out of yourself as a person. Whether it's fighting, whether it's, being a mathematician, whatever you're applying your skill in, if you enjoy the process, I try teaching myself it. When I was having hard, long days, just skilled labor, if I was just cutting, I don't know, studs all day, like, because I was never done it before, if I was trying to see the best of the day and, like, I learned so many new skills, I really flipped it on its head where I could easily have just been like, this is crap, I'm never going to do this in my life. So really teaching yourself how to enjoy the process overall is going to make you so much better.
Yeah. And I guess kind of what we've been talking about recently, it kind of all ties around nicely, right? Is people wanting the results but not the process, right? And being attracted to the results and not the process, right? There's a process to becoming successful that requires hard and gritty work that a lot of people get on with. But they also post it on social media and stuff. And a lot of people look at that and they just want that. And there's the disconnect in action and goal, right? So,
yeah, hit the nail on the head there. Anyway, we'll wrap it up now.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for listening. And cheers for coming on. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Likewise, mate. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Please give it a like and comment. And stay tuned. Thank you, guys.